Let's take the session a very lighter mode, but it's a little technical topic I want to share with you all. What is the future of the higher education, right? I think there is a lot of forums, lot of sessions vertically happening in this platform also, where they will share you mostly on how do you improve your technology, how do you improve your curriculum, how do you improve your pedagogy in the higher education, right? So I thought I am one of the most eligible person to talk on that. You know why? I'm not from the academia. Because the more you sit inside the cooking room, you get slotted into the same routine and you forget the technique, right? Sometimes people looking from outside can talk better than the people who are sitting in the kitchen all the time. Same way, I thought, not coming from the academia as a full-time personality like yourself, I can share some of my insights into it. Briefly, I would introduce myself as a Group Chief Finance and a Business Transformation Officer for RMB Holdings in Dubai. It's one of the very diversified vertical-based industry where we are into manufacturing, tissue papers like what you're using here. We also manufacture transformers, industrial transformers. We are also into agri-tech. We are into construction, trading, and whatnot. And what is this guy doing here? I'm Tamil Selvan Ramdas. I've been working in the industry for last 28 years. Out of that, last 20 years, I've been teaching in the Fridays and weekends in UAE for various universities and various academias like CPA, CMA, and all finance and project management strategy programs. In this way, I also worked with the government of Dubai 13 years from 2009 to 2021, where we were heavily involved in a topic called Triple Helix model. Hey, you know what is TMH? Triple Helix model. That's what the topic we are going to talk about and how we can integrate the academia with the industry, correct? It's not that you produce theoreticians. It's not that you talk only theory in the schools. It has to be integrated with the industry. Industry is where your students are going to be employed, correct? Whatever you teach in an academy has to be tested in the industry. So this is what we thought. We as industry specialists, we can work with academicians to integrate the so-called the requirements that is needed in the practical world with your curriculum. So with that background, I thought I can start my slides. This is what learning is. You suddenly understand something you have understood all your life, but in a different way, correct? That's what a learning should give to you. Knowledge has to be improved, challenged, and increased constantly, or it does vanish, right? So trends in higher education. I thought of sharing some slides on that. Very simple. If you look at it, learning from everywhere, correct? That's different from learning from anywhere. COVID has taught us that sitting in any place you can learn, correct? We were talking about the remote learning and all those stuffs. But it's not about learning from anywhere. It's learning from everywhere. Every aspects of your world can be understood sitting in universities, sitting in the practical rooms, going for a study tour, getting into a case study management. So we need to have an integrated study module where you can see that in European Business School, ISAR, they've launched a new bachelor's program in 2021, just 2 years before, that which combines class conducted across the campuses, across various industry sites, across even remote sessions. It's not just learning from anywhere. It's learning from everywhere. That is the trend we are looking out for in the higher education. And hybrid learning does not just mean combining virtual and physical classrooms. It is all enabling a real world situation so that you bridge the gap between the so-called theory and the practice. Okay, we always say we are being used for lecturing, right? Even that's what I do now. But it's not just for lecturing. Lecturing is basically a very efficient way of teaching. Hey, correct? But that's the most ineffective way of learning. So we have been crunched with a lot of lecturing over a period of a lot of academic life cycle. But now I've been watching around the lot of podiums here and the standouts there. I can see even the KG students are going to learn a very, very mimicked way of reality. It's more of live, more of videos, or more of live sessions. They will really enjoy it. So similar things has to be brought also in our curriculum in the higher education. The first ever, almost 80 years or 90 years back in Harvard Business School, they brought in the case study model, correct? The case study model was modeled by Harvard Business School, where they bring in a case study to the classroom to discuss what not. There is no one right way. There could be multiple truths to that. But combined with that, we can make the learning with less of lecturing and more of real-time teaching, where there is something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which says that both the learning and the time lapsed is indirectly proportional. The faster you will forget, which is only by lecturing. So we need to reimpose with levels of 1, 2, 3, first level, second level of review, and third level of review, so that you have a constant learning and a lifetime learning. So basically, we're talking about education institutions needs to demonstrate effective learning outcomes, and some are starting to embrace teaching methodologies that is called the science of learning. We are now talking about not just learning, the science of learning is just evolving, so that we are trying to evolve every day what is the best way to teach, best way to understand, best way to grasp things. Now, this very interesting slide, maybe you would have gotten to this slide in many of the forums. I thought of talking about this slide in connection to also the Education 4.0. Before that, we thought of talking about Industry 1, 2, and 3, and 4.0. What is Industry 1.0? It was all the introduction of the steam engines, right? Then came the electricity, which transformed a lot in our industrial revolution. The third revolution is basically the electronics. And the fourth revolution is basically the computers, and you can talk about all that is happening in terms of Internet of Things. You talk about AI, data analytics. We are in that particular highest level of industrial revolution that is getting into the next level, something called Industrial Revolution 5. Is anybody aware of what is called Industrial Revolution 5.0? That is called as interacting with humanoids, not even robots. You have to teach your curriculum based on how your students are not going to work with co-workers. They're going to work with co-humanoids, my friends. Are your curriculum ready for that? We are even still coping up to teach or train our social skills for our students, how to work with the co-humans. But the technology is going very fast, where we need to even train the curriculum of psychological social skills. I call them as robo-socio skills. I coin a term called robo-socio skills. You are not going to work with any co-workers. You're going to work with co-humanoids. They're more better than even robots. How this is integrated with that of the technology and the education. So always you can see in the past, there is a race or there's a competition between the technology and the education, right? When we were studying, or rather I was studying 30 years back in schools, my school curriculums or college curriculums looked better than what was there in the jobs. So when I finished my chartered or cost accounting, when I get into the job, I was superhuman. But later on, ERP or something called as enterprise resource planning came into the work. Most of the accountants' understanding has been taken care by the ERP systems. And today, all the finance work, most of the functionalities work are taken care by AI. Nobody is knowing what is debit and credit. So also with other fields of medicine. The Department of Radiology is going to be washed out. If there is any doctors or radiologists here, I'm sorry for that. Because it's going to be fully scanned by AI system, and that is going to give not only a predictive analytics of the health, it is also going to give a prescriptive analytics of the medicine. Correct or not? So robotics, automations are prevailing in every industry. So we need to, as educationalists, we need to cope up with the technology. Correct? Now if you look at the gap, whenever the education is better than the technology, you have something called a very nice prosperity period. But when the education is lower than the technology, but the education is trying to, sectors coping with the technology, there is something called a social pain, correct? How about you people sending to me a student with high grades and he doesn't know even how to operate some basic social skills with humans and also basic technological skills? What is it I'm going to do with that student? Correct? So there is a technology gap. Correct? So we need to always understand how we can upgrade, how we can cope up the curricula of the academy and the teaching methodology so that we are in tandem with that of the so-called technology growth. To shorten the period of social pain and maximize the period of prosperity for all, education systems need to undergo a transformative change. So what is that change that can be? There are a lot of research studies. I thought of sharing some. that is done by Whaley faculty fellows. They talk about how the future of the education would be. This is one of the aspects. I'm not saying this is the only aspect. If you look at the students, they're going to be very, very demanding, correct? Already you as academicians can see that students are very demanding. Demanding in what? Demanding in what? Like a consumer aspect, correct? As a professor or as an academician, you cannot just go and teach something and come out. You will be like a marketeer where you need to convince your consumer, correct? And your consumer is nothing but the student. So the students are going to be more demanding in nature, correct? The consumer mindset. Tangible results. They want tangible results. It's not that you say that you study that you get into this. They will tell you in the past 10 years of your teaching, how many students have got into this particular job. Correct? What is the skill set that I'm going to learn and going to adopt in my industry? Correct? And this becomes even more difficult for non-engineering and non-quanta studies like social studies. For example, you're teaching archaeology, you're teaching social psychology. That's become even more difficult to make it more practical, correct or not? So that is where the demand is going to be even bigger in gap. So please understand, my friends, the students are going to have requests from you tangible results. Challenges in classroom, they will continue to need help with writing, critical thinking, and professional skills. That is a thing which you need to keep supporting them. Then if you look at the faculty side, what is the transformation that is going to happen in the future education from the faculty side? If you look at, they need to be technology savvy. What I mean that, I'll give a literal example. I see as a finance person, I've been teaching across academia in terms of CPA programs, one of the toughest programs in the world on accounting studies in US, UK and Australian and Indian or whatever curriculum. I can see there is 15 years of gap between the textbooks and the what is practiced in the job. Most of the professors do not know how to run a complete set of accounting flow in a software system, but let's take a small problem from a textbook and solve it and go year on year. So what I'm trying to say is that the professors, the academicians have to be really techno-savvy to exhibit, to demonstrate these students, this is what in real time they'll be using as a solution, using the technology support, wherein a bigger change has to be happening in the academia and the institutions has to support and train the professors and train the trainers so that they can widen or rather they can shorten that gap of technology being not upgraded to them. So the faculty members have to be techno-savvy. That's very, very important. And new teaching models, pedagogy models, continuous learning environment has to be there. It's not that you finish your one semester or 1 year, you get your ranks, then no. Learning has to be a continuous process, correct? And the institutions, once they award a certificate or a degree program, it's not that for life. To maintain that, there has to be a yearly learning systems or maintaining some professional credits to them so that there is an early learning program and a continuous learning program. More efficient grading. I think grading has to be, it's a very, very debatable subject. We can have one full session on that. The system of grading has to integrate both theoretical and practical, psycho-social aspects of the so-called student, correct? There are students who are not good in communication, but they are very good in terms of some theoretical skills. There are students who are very, very good in communicative skills, but their technical knowledge is very poor. So we need to grade them in a collaborative, in a very, very distinctive manner, not in a very traditional manner, so that you holistically find a student and send them to the industry. When you talk about the institutions, I think a lot of things has to be done in the institution because a lot of infrastructural change, a lot of cultural mindset change, a lot of strategic change has to come in the institutions because they alone can support the whole academic industry. So there has to be more technology, complex thinking required, adaptation of workplaces. That's what we're going to talk about when soon in the next few slides. How academia has to work in tandem with the industry, correct? That's one of the very, very important things the institutions have to think about. Now, if you look at it, it all puts into two main things for any institution or any academic setup. One is called the optimization, one is called the transformation. Now, the way the brick and mortars of the universities were working in the past decades and past centuries, not the way the future will be working. So, you as institutions have to have a very different shift in your strategic thinking process that is called transformation. You cannot do the same way of teaching, same way of grading, same way of stamping the student and getting them out of for the job, because the job requirements are totally different. There's a big gap, there's a big mismatch. So please do understand, you as institutions have to make a big transformation in the strategic process of your strategic goals on how you're going to take it forward for the next decades. To do that transformation, there also has to be an optimization strategy. How do you really work day to day on it to achieve that particular strategy? This is another very important model. I just saw one of a big flow chart here. I would recommend for you to go and see in the table there how the institutions have to be very integrated in terms of the entire infrastructure, in terms of integrating the curriculum with the research and everything. That is the KPMG Connected Enterprise for Higher Education. There is a report published in 2021-22. You can just look into it in detail. Just giving you a heads on here. You can detail read on that. Just to touch upon, it talks about primary actors, secondary actors, means of access. It talks about complete automation of the higher education sector in terms of Internet of Things. What I mean by Internet of Things, let me tell you in terms of a simple example. I had organizations where we have manufacturing plant. Gone are the days where plant managers sit live into the plant and they operate and control. He sits in his bedroom and he can use IoT tools, still control and do a preventive maintenance in my factory. Do you get it? I worked previously for Dubai Ports, where the lifting of the containers are done through a joystick. Do you believe that? It's all enabled through IoT. Similarly, you can use IoT technologies also in your teaching and academic platforms. You don't have to be literally sitting in a classroom to teach. A lot of integration has to be done in terms of tools and techniques, in terms of automations. So a lot of adoption that has to be done. That's what they're talking about. So you can see the very integrated model. Due to the want of time, I'm just skipping that in detail. You can always read this report in detail later on. Now, core features of Education 4.0. What are the core features we are looking at? That's very important. Basically, we are talking about digital technologies, right? So no academics in future can be devoid of adopting technology in terms of any methodology you can talk about. More interestingly, in engineering and life sciences, correct? I was just talking outside for some time. In 1990, I was taught chemistry by a school teacher in the board, the chamber process of creating a sulfuric acid. Vividly, I still remember. But it would be more easy if it would have been put into a very live methodology of videos where I can still understand better, correct or not? Today's schools have been teaching on that way. So you need to understand digital technology disruptions or the 4.0 of education. Then you're talking about flipped classrooms. Anybody can say what is flipped classrooms? Yes, what is that, sir? Switching the roles of? Okay, what else? So flipping of the triangle, we call them as. If you look at any organization triangle, on the top you'll have very few people, on the ground you'll have many people, correct or not? We call them as operational, tactical and strategic people. We have only one CEO, we have hundreds of workers. We have only one teacher, but hundreds of students. Let's flip the triangle. We have hundreds of teachers and one student. Am I correct or not? We have hundreds of teachers and one student. There is something called parallel learning. If you come and sit in my computer, I have 10 Google Sheets open at the same time so that I can read in parallel. So there is no one teacher teaching me at the same time. There are hundreds of teachers teaching me at the same time. Are we getting into that mode? Yes, it's already, that's called MOOC, correct or not? So that is 4.0. Then open and distance learning, which you already are aware of. There is something, the OECD model of education, which I took it from that is called the AAR, that is called the Anticipation Action Reflection Cycle. Very, very important. Again, due to want of time, I'm not going to elaborate on it. If you have more time, just take this slide and look into AAR. It's very, very well-designed model. Just to give an idea, it's an iterative learning process whereby learners continuously improve their thinking and act intentionally and responsibly. It's not that just for the sake of learning. It's a very, very involved teaching and learning process. And it is not one time, it's an iterative process. What you learn today and what is truth today may not be the truth tomorrow. What is right today cannot be right tomorrow. There is something called contemporary correctness. Correct or right? World was flat or round? Some hundreds of years back, it was thought to be flat. Today, we think it is round. Still somebody will come and disprove it as called as triangle, correct? So we need to evolve on that. Then finally, I'm talking about how you have to teach your curriculum in a way that you'll be talking about robo-social skills. What is robo-social skills? You're not going to work with co-humans, you're going to work with co-humanoids. Humanoids are better than robots. They have an integrated concept of machines and the human conscious into them to an extent, biological concept into them. That will be very complex to work with, right? This is called the concept of the international citizen or global citizen. This is what UNESCO wants us to be. It talks about various things, and the most important thing I'm looking at is the multiliterateness and transdisciplinary. It's not just because you are very literate, you are great. You have to be multidisciplinary also, correct or not? Gone are the days where the mathematicians do not study about biology, where the accountants do not study about history. No, every aspect is connected through a common thread. So everybody can learn many things together. So we are now talking about creating curriculums where accounting and biology and life sciences are studied together. I have a lot of accountants working under me who started the career as not from accounting, from life sciences. So we can have, and they do jobs better than traditional accountants. So again, due to want of time, I'm just rushing out to the final thing that is called the entrepreneurial university. That is what called the TMS, the triple helix model. Triple helix model is what I always propound. I'm an expert in that, where when I'm working with the government of Dubai in the maritime sector, we used to work with a lot of maritime institutions where we integrate the academia of industry and the government also do support. So government supports in the academia by supporting them with funds, and they create new ideologies, and that's put into practice by industry. Collectively, with all these people working together, the economy grows. That's called the triple helix model. And I always try to work with, as industry person, work with academia so that we can learn from each other and contribute to each other. And we can talk about that. This triple helix model is defined as a set of interactions between the three entities: university, industry, and the government. Hence, this generates innovative through this synergy. And this is what I'm talking about as a triple helix model, where it is no more, it is only one segment of the component. Government alone works hard, only the academy works hard. No, everybody has equal responsibility to contribute, work together so that we can improve. And if you want to see the live examples of what is this triple helix model in UAE, yes, the UAE has adopted the triple helix model to promoting sustainable development in various sectors, and Mazda in Abu Dhabi. It is a very simple example of triple helix model, where there is a government backup, there is an industry, and there is an academy working in tandem. And we talk about these institutions are all based on one I selected from Abu Dhabi, one from Dubai, and one from Sharjah. You might be talking about the American University of Sharjah and the Sharjah Research Technology and Innovation Park. That's exactly modeled on the triple helix model. The one you see just opposite this particular complex at the Museum of the Future. You have a separate segment for AI. There is a ministry for AI. So government supports the industry supports the academy, and they work together. So I think every country, every nation, if they build up this model, that will be for a common good for developing the economy by supporting all these three industries together. So what is the future? The future of education is not fixed destination, but a dynamic and collaborative process that involves multiple stakeholders. And it's a big challenge for all of us. It's up to us to shape it and make it positive and transform it to the betterment of the world. Thanks a lot for listening to me. Take care.